What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Underdog Podcast. Today, I am here with our Week 5 Power Rankings. A lot happened this week, for sure. A lot of movement, and some teams that really, came out and surprised us this week, and other teams that really disappointed us this week. So we start from the bottom, staying put at the number 32 team. We have the Houston Texans. So, the Houston Texans this week, not very impressive. Davis Mills continues to just be, lackluster. Damian Pierce was kind of their only bright spot this week. Really got it going. I think Lovie Smith even said it himself. He said that this team is not a good football team right now, and they will, eventually be able to get there, hopefully with some more talent, with some more draft picks, stuff like that. We move on to our number 31 team here. Moving down 3 spots is the Carolina Panthers. This team just does not look great right now. Baker Mayfield does not look like a starting caliber NFL quarterback at this point. He has not been very good. DJ Moore has been non-existent in this offense, partly due to Ben McAdoo, partly due to Baker Mayfield. I'm not really putting a ton of the blame on DJ Moore. Christian McCaffrey hasn't been as big a part of this offense as we hoped. Same with Robbie Anderson, pretty much with everybody. This offense has not been clicking so far this season. On top of that, I think this defense is playing pretty well. I thought they held Kyler Murray in check for most of the game and really gave this team a chance to win. They were just not able to execute properly on offense for the Carolina Panthers. And Sam Darnold comes back off IR. Matt Rule's a pretty desperate head coach. I still don't know how he still has this job, but he could want to potentially look for a quarterback change if he deems that necessary. Then, moving on to our number 30 team, staying put here is the Chicago Bears. Listen, man, this Bears team is one of the most dysfunctional teams I've seen ever. We finally got something out of Darnell Mooney this week, which was positive, but Justin Fields probably had his best outing of the year, which isn't really saying much. I mean, he was 11 of 22 for 174 yards. Khalil Herbert continues to be very good in replacement for David Montgomery, who is struggling, I think, with an ankle injury at this point, but Fields was also sacked 6 times. It wasn't great. He was able to use his legs in this game, though, to finally, get, make plays on the ground, which I felt like they need to incorporate that more. I think this defense was fine in this game. I mean, they kind of held the Giants in check. They were just beat badly on 2 bootlegs. And then also turnovers killed this team. They had 6 fumbles in total, and 3 of them were lost, which is just ridiculous, man. So, got to clean that up as well there. Then we move on to our number 29 team here. I'm sorry, Paul. It is the Washington Commanders here, moving down 5 spots. They just have not looked good the last 2 weeks. They really have struggled on offense. They've struggled to block people. Carson Wentz has looked pedestrian the last 2 weeks. Getting Brian Robinson Jr. back, who was back at practice this week, back at practice today, actually. Hopefully you can get, some sort of a run game going because Antonio Gibson has been awful this season. And there's no excuse for Carson Wentz to just be, pedestrian with this talent in the receiving core with Terry McLaurin, with Curtis Samuels looked very, very good this season after really struggling with injuries in the last 2 years. Jahan Dotson looks like a home run pick, their first-round pick this year. And Logan Thomas is a fine tight end as well. I really think that the Commanders should be better than they are. They're kind of hoping out for Chase Young to come back, and hopefully that defense can kind of wake up and become what it was in 2020. Maybe they might be able to save Riverboat Ron's job at that point, but we shall see. Then moving on to our number 28 team here, moving down 9 spots, our biggest faller of the week here. It's the Detroit Lions. And I think Jared Goff probably had his best game of the year. I think their offense looks pretty good. They finally got TJ Hawkinson rolling. I had them a little bit higher in mind. Paul had them pretty low. But I do think that this defense is just freaking awful, man. And I've defended Aaron Glenn. I'm kind of an Aaron Glenn fan. I really don't think that you can put full blame on him because he just doesn't have the talent on this defense. I mean, they did add Aiden Hutchinson, but you lost Tracy Walker for the year with a torn Achilles, which is rough. You really don't have a linebacker that is making an impact outside of Malcolm Rodriguez. Amani Oruwariye is taking a step back. Jeff Okudah looks really good, but Oruwariye was kind of coming into his own, maybe pushing that top 10 corner range last season. And this offense is explosive. They are able to kind of compete. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter to kind of bring this team back into it. They still don't have Jameson Williams yet. They didn't have DJ Chark or DeAndre Swift in this game. I think Swift is a big part of their success, even though Jamal Williams did have a nice game. So I think I want to say I was stand corrected when I said that if Jameson Williams was healthy from the beginning of the year, this team would be in the playoffs. But with how bad this defense is, I don't know if that would be true or not, honestly. It's really tough. And then we have, at the number 27 spot, moving up 2 spots, it is the New York Jets, who welcomed back Zach Wilson this week as he was hurt the first 4 weeks of the season. He looked pretty good, man. He had a really bad interception in this game, but other than that, he looked pretty good. I felt like he was anticipating much more this season, anticipating receivers open, and was throwing when receivers were, making their breaks rather than throwing when they were open last year, which is we've seen a lot of young quarterbacks kind of wait till somebody is open to throw to them. Instead, he was anticipating that this year, which I really liked. They got Breece Hall going in this game more, which I liked. He had 17 carries in this game to Michael Carter's 9. I feel like it should be that way for the rest of the year. Corey Davis had a really nice game in this one. One of his best games as a Jet. I think that once Wilson gets more established with Garrett Wilson, that connection will be, even better and better this year. 4 passes defense for LaMarcus Joyner, who had a really nice game in this one defensively. He also had 2 interceptions. And then Jordan Whitehead and Michael Carter also had interceptions in this game. So really good performance from the Jets defensively, which they, hadn't lived up to the mark that they had last season, but did have a really good game for the Jets defense in this one. And then at our number 26 team, staying put is the Atlanta Falcons, who had a really nice win over the Cleveland Browns this week. Mariota was not great. I think he only had like 7 completions in this game, I want to say. He had 7 completions in this game. Wasn't great. Threw an interception. You're missing Cordero Patterson for 4 weeks now as he's put on IR. So Ty Algier and Caleb Huntley will be taking over that. We'll see how that affects the run game. And, threw at Kyle Pitts 4 times this week. I think he overthrew him those other 3 times. I still think that they need to get Kyle Pitts more involved for this offense to continue to be ever so improving and be more efficient. But I like the steps that they've taken the last 2 weeks. Michael Walker looks really good defensively as well. I think that the one thing holding Atlanta back from, from being kind of taken seriously as a playoff team is the lack of talent on defense. I just don't think that they have enough talent on that side of the ball to be able to make a run at a wild card spot in the NFC, although anything can happen. And then at number 25, moving on 8 spots, it is the Indianapolis Colts. And this team, man, they're not the team they were last year. Matt Ryan did have a really good game in this one. I felt like it was his best game of the year. He was actually able to move the ball, but Jonathan Taylor's going to be out this week in their Thursday night game against the Denver Broncos. So we'll see how that affects them. They really don't have anybody behind him besides Nyheim Hines to take over that role. Mo Cox looked pretty good in this game. He had 2 touchdowns. I wish they would get Michael Pittman the ball more because he is their, biggest weapon on offense besides Jonathan Taylor, but they really have not been able to get him going this year. On top of that, their defense played pretty well in this game. Derrick Henry, kind of had his way early on, but they shut him out in the second half, so, gave this team a chance to win. Stephon Gilmore looks really good on top of that, so hopefully the Colts can build something, but they do have a tough game coming up against, the Denver Broncos, who haven't looked as good as we thought, but short week, no Jonathan Taylor, going to be tough to pull out a victory in Denver, which is always a hard place to play. Then, at number 24 spot, moving down 2 spots, it is the New Orleans Saints, who had a pretty good game, I thought, this week against the Vikings in London. I think just a couple other teams, impressed me more. But I think Andy Dalton looked good in this game. Probably better than Jameis has all year, to be honest. I think there's a serious question of you just play Andy Dalton until Jameis is fully healthy, because I think he's looked better than him. No Kamara, no Michael Thomas in this game. Saints still look pretty good. Defense kind of woke up a little bit. Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan were active in this game. Marshawn Lattimore had a tough day, but, Justin Jefferson kind of had a quiet last 2 weeks, and I figured that Jefferson was going to come out and say, hey, I still am one of the best receivers in football. On top of that, Chris Olave looks like a really, really damn good pick. Better than I even thought he was going to be. So congratulations, Saints fans. You got one in Chris Olave. Then we move on to the number 23 team, which I think is a little bit too high. I had them, I think, at like 29 or 30. Paul had them at like 17. It is the New York Giants here coming in at number 23. We went up 4 spots. But good news is Daniel Jones wasn't, his injury isn't as serious as he thought. He looked pretty good in practice. I saw a clip on Twitter of him rolling out on bootlegs, and he looked pretty mobile. So I think he will be ready to go for the London game against the Green Bay Packers. Saquon Barkley has been amazing this season, man. He looks like the old Saquon Barkley, that number 2 overall pick, which is really nice to see. But this Giants offense is just so pedestrian other than Saquon Barkley. Although I will say Daniel Jones' ability to add things into the run game is super underrated. I think that Daniel Jones might just be, I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but I think he's a guy that you can win with, as the Giants have been winning so far. I think that Daboll has actually played to his strengths and used Daniel Jones' mobility to help this team. Daniel Bellinger has looked pretty good the last couple of weeks, but this team is going to be hurting at London as Kenny Golladay is out and this receiving core is already depleted. So they're going to be going with like Darius Slayton, Richie James, and David Sills the fifth, which is definitely not ideal. This defense, I think, is fine. They stepped up this week against a bad offensive line. They had 6 sacks by 5 different players, which is really good. So you hope that the Giants can build off of this and continue to win these close football games. I think they'll probably lose London against the Green Bay Packers, but you never know. The Patriots gave the Packers a tough time, so we'll see what happens there. Then we move on to our number 22 team here. It's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, falling 7 spots. I think it's about damn time they went to Kenny Pickett. And for all, the criticisms I had of Kenny Pickett, I just didn't think he had that high of a ceiling. I did think he was probably the most ready-to-play now quarterback out of anybody, but I just didn't like his upside. And there was a couple of things that I really didn't like about him, like bailing from clean pockets all the time, arm talent, stuff like that. But Kenny Pickett looked really good in his debut. He will be starting this week against the Bills, which hopefully that doesn't go too bad. But the 3 interceptions he threw, so he threw one up to Claypool in double coverage, who was on two guys that were under 6 foot. Claypool 6'5", and he didn't come down with it and kicked it into the defender. I don't know what's going on with Chase Claypool, but he has looked awful this season, so I don't really put that one on him. The last one was a Hail Mary, and then the other one was just a really good play by Michael Carter, so I really don't put that on him much. George Pickens, he looks really good. I still don't believe how he didn't go in the first round, even with his, issues. It was just stupid, but Deontay Johnson was really quiet in this game. I'm waiting to see Deontay Johnson really kind of take over for this team because it just hasn't happened yet. I'm kind of waiting on it. Defensively, they look pretty good, although Minkah Fitzpatrick has not practiced this week, which is going to be tough for them, especially against a team like Buffalo where they really need all the playmakers they can have on defense and offense. So you hope that is there, but I think the Steelers, hopefully we'll see brighter days in the coming future with the start of the Kenny Pickett era. And then the number 21 spot, moving up 10 spots this week, it is the Seattle Seahawks. And let me just say, man, Geno Smith has been awesome this season. It's one of the best storylines that has come out of this season is Geno Smith has legitimately outplayed Russell Wilson, the former Seahawks quarterback. And it brings you the question, because I think Geno is 31 this year, is if Geno plays well enough, let's say the Seahawks just bear with me. Seahawks make the playoffs, or they're really close to making the playoffs, and Geno plays really well. Do you keep Geno Smith as your franchise quarterback? I mean, he has played awesome this season, man. In this game, he was 23 of 30, 320 yards and 2 touchdowns. Granted, against a bad defense, but still, he was really making plays out there. Also had 7 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown. He has played awesome this season. DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett, who we, we're like, how is their production going to be without Russell Wilson this year, with having Geno Smith at their quarterback? They have been awesome this season, man. They have been really, really good for this team. Will Dissly, Colby Parkinson, Noah Fant have all been great as well. Dissly really kind of taking over that tight end 1 role, which is really interesting as well. And the defense has been, suspect, but I will give them credit. Tariq Woolen looks awesome. He, Jared Goff, the 1 interception he threw was a late throw on a crosser, and Tariq Woolen just caught up to it, jumped the route and took it to the house. That was awesome. So it looks like they have something in him. And, Uchenna Nwosu has been really good for this team as well. He's been around the football a lot, and he's been able to make plays for that defense. And then we move on to the number 20 team, moving up 1 spot this week. It is my New England Patriots. And listen, man, I'm about to go on a rant here. So everybody's counting this team out already, just like they did last year when they were 1-3. And my claim for this team is, listen, they are 1-3 with losses to Miami, which I thought they were in that game. They were a couple of plays from winning that game. They were in it with Baltimore until, bad fumble by Nelson Aguilar, and then Lamar Jackson just decided to, play like the MVP that he is and, just carry on that last drive. And then they go to Lambeau Field against the Packers. They make Aaron Rodgers look absolutely pedestrian in the first half, right? Jack Jones, phenomenal game this week with a forced fumble and interception, his first career start. And they go to overtime with the Green Bay Packers, who have a phenomenal defense, back-to-back MVP at quarterback, with a third-string quarterback for most of the game. And people are putting them at like 28, 29, 26 in their power rankings. And I'm just like, how? This team has a really easy schedule coming up. I think their next 7 games are Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, the Jets, the Colts, the Jets again, and then the Vikings. They could win 7 games in a row, with or without Mac Jones, and really put themselves in a position to be in the playoffs. Now, this week's a must-win game against a very good Detroit offense this season, but I think the Patriots will get it done. And I'm just tired of the disrespect, man. I'm tired of the disrespect. I think that the Patriots will finish 11-6 like I predicted, and they will make the playoffs. And I want everybody to, remember this. I want you to remember this. Even if I'm wrong, I want you to just remember this. This is how confident I am in this team. I think that they will be able to put together a run in the middle of the season. They got a tough, last 5-6 games, but I still think that they can do it, man. I think that they're still being slept on way too much in this league. And then 19 spot here, moving down 1 spot from last week. It is the Denver Broncos, who suffered a big blow in losing starting running back Javonte Williams to a torn ACL, moving Melvin Gordon into the starting running back role, which I'm sure Denver fans are not exactly happy about, as Melvin Gordon has had a rough start so far. But I think Russ looked a lot better in this game. He was able to find the open receivers. He was able to make plays in this game, and I think really give their team a chance to win. Just a bad fumble by Melvin Gordon really cost them in this game for sure. I think that, like I said, this team, they just need to figure out what works for them offensively and stick with that. I feel like they're just trying to do too many things in this game and, on the offensive side of the ball, and it's just not working. Defensively, this team's still really good, although I think Randy Gregory is heading to IR, which is a tough blow. He's had a really good start to this season, but Pat Surtain was really good when he was on Davante Adams. I mean, Davante Adams struggled against Pat Surtain, so that is a bright spot for this team for Denver, is that Pat Surtain continues to be a phenomenal quarterback in this league. And then at number 18, moving down 4 spots from last week, is the Cleveland Browns, who They did not play well in this game, man, specifically Jacoby Brissett. He kind of had one of those Jacoby Brissett games, had a bad interception, overthrew the ball in the red zone to Amari Cooper a couple times. It would have been touchdowns to win the game. I thought that the Browns really should have won this game, and they did not. Nick Chubb was great as always, but their defense kind of, laxed in the red zone a little bit, kind of gave up, touchdowns when they probably shouldn't have, to a offense that is, decent at best. So I think the Browns got to get back to the drawing board this week and see if they can come away with a win against, who are they playing this week? The Browns are playing the Chargers. So tough game, high-scoring game from last year. We'll see if they can bounce back and come away with a win in that one. And then we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the 17th spot, moving up 8 spots from last week. I think we were a little bit lower on this team. It's not like they were not playing well. They were playing well. They just couldn't close out games, or they couldn't, play for 4 quarters. Finally played for 4 quarters here. Josh Jacobs had an awesome game, man. I still think he's one of the more slept-on running backs in the league, and the fact that they were going to trade him at the beginning of the season was just kind of like head-scratching to me, in all honesty. Derek Carr was fine in this game. Continues to be the check-down king that he is. Devontae Adams had a much better game this week. He was targeted 13 times. They're finally getting him the ball. I think that Darren Waller needs to be more involved, and I think in due time he will be. They had a big touchdown this week from Amik Robertson on the fumble from Melvin Gordon, and then also Max Crosby was really good. 2 sacks, 4 TFLs. Divine Diablo, my guy, was all over the field this week. Had a really, really good game for the Raiders. So this is a big one for the Raiders. You get your first win. You got Kansas City Monday night, which is a big game. I expect them to be competitive in that game. I don't expect them to win it, but I expect them to be competitive. So we'll see how they do, after getting some confidence here in the win against Denver. It's another divisional opponent in the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we move on to our number 16 team, staying put from last week. It is the Arizona Cardinals, who struggled in this game throughout the first half and then started to pick it up. I think Kyler Murray was exceptional in this game, especially in the second half. He was the reason why they won this game. Him and Marquise Brown, their chemistry has not, is the same that it was at Oklahoma. They're just both very good. They got Rondale Moore back this week, so hopefully that he will be taking over that Greg Dortch role that Dortch has played throughout the start of the season. Good to see him back. Explosive weapon for them. And then in the run game, James Conner just kind of doesn't look right. I don't know if he's still nagging injury or what, but he just hasn't looked great. And defensively, they played a really good game. They forced Baker into a lot of mistakes and were able to have a really big fourth quarter to propel them to the win this week on the road. And then we move to the number 15 team, moving up 5 spots from last week. It is the Dallas Cowboys, who also had a very good week this week, against the Washington Commanders. This defense is legit, man. Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, DeMarcus Lawrence, they're amazing, man. This pass rush is crazy. Against a pretty good O-line in Washington, too, they really forced Carson Wentz to making a lot of mistakes. Cooper Rush has just kind of been the game manager, getting the ball to the playmakers, getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown, and Michael Gallup was back this week, so it's good to see him back. And I still hope that they get Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott going, but really good game for the Dallas Cowboys. They are putting themselves in a really good spot for when Dak Prescott comes back to make a run. Not only just an NFC East title, but, being, a top seed in the NFC this season. And then we move on to our number 14 team, moving up 8 spots from last week. It is the Tennessee Titans, who, as soon as you count them out, man, they come back and they prove you wrong. And they had a really good first half in this game against the Colts. Not so great second half, but still something to build on. 2 wins in a row against the Raiders and Colts. Derrick Henry looks back, finally. He looks like the old Derrick Henry. Had a really good game in this one. 5.2 yards a carry, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Tannehill was fine, was efficient, 17 of 21, but only 137 yards. You hope for more than that, but considering that Treylon Burks left this game with an injury, and they don't have the weapons that they have in the past. Robert Woods had a touchdown in this game, and Chig Okonkwo looked really good in this game. 3 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown, so welcome to the NFL, Chig Okonkwo. But you hope that this offense can continue to ride, Derrick Henry, go as he goes, and then hopefully get some production out of these receivers. And defensively, they have been pretty good the last couple weeks. Danico Autry, big game, 2 sacks. Kevin Byard has kind of been pretty quiet this year, but I felt like he had his best game of the year. Caleb Farley as well had a nice bounce back week after struggling in the first couple games of the season. So really good stuff there from Tennessee, and credit to Mike Vrabel, who is still one of the best coaches in this league. And then we move on to our number 13 team, sticking in the AFC South here. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars, moving back 1 spot. Tough loss this week. Tough conditions to play in the rain. So I think that they will bounce back. Trevor Lawrence, I think he had like 5 turnovers in this game, so it wasn't the best day from Trevor Lawrence. They were a offensive line under siege with that really, really good pass rush from Philadelphia. Probably their worst game of the season, but I think they'll bounce back. I was got a little annoyed that they were using like Jamal Agnew a ton in this game and not using like Marvin Jones at all, or ETN. Like, why are we still using Jamal Agnew? Like, Jamal Agnew's a great returner and gadget player, but like, come on, man, what are we doing? I thought that was Urban Meyer stuff. And then we move on to our number 12 team. Moving down 7 spots from last week, it is the Miami Dolphins. And I will say this about Miami, is I still think they're going to be fine with Teddy Bridgewater. There was just a lot of teams that kind of had a bounce-back week. And, the Dolphins, even with Tua in there, didn't exactly, weren't lighting the world on fire against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals, had a really nice win against the Dolphins, on Thursday Night Football. Tyreek Hill looked really good in this game. He was Tyreek Hill of old. And I think Teddy was fine in this game. I think it's just once he gets more reps with the first-team offense, they'll be, firing on all cylinders. I think it was a miscommunication with Gesicki. He thought he was gonna run a seam instead of a slant, and he threw the interception, lose the game. But stuff like that happens. I think defensively, Miami just got kind of bullied in this game. Joe Mixon finally kind of had a day where he was like, kind of ground and pound, even though he was only like 2.5 yards a carry. It just felt like he was fighting for every yard. And, Miami was kind of like out physical in this game, almost felt like. So I think that'll change next week, kind of rallying behind the Tua injury and stuff like that. And then we move on to our number 11 team here. Moving down 1 spot, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. Bounce back win, against the Houston Texans. This team has suffered a lot of injuries. No Rashawn Slater. Joey Bosa's on IR. Keenan Allen, has been hurt for the last couple weeks. Coming back this week, I believe. But I got to see him do something more than beat the Texans. I still think this team, really good. Has a chance at that AFC West crown, but, I got to see it against better teams than the Houston Texans, where they actually kind of let them back into the game at one point, so they were able to kind of stave them off, but I need to see more out of this Chargers team. Then we move on to the LA Rams, who fall 2 spots here. They really struggled on Monday Night Football, and part of that was they were missing like 2 or 3 starting offensive linemen. I think they were missing 2 coming in, and then 1 got hurt. And Stafford was good considering the circumstances he was playing under. I think that, he was kind of running for his life out there, and he was able to make plays when he could. And the interception was just a really nice play by Talanoa Hufanga. I mean, they didn't really run the ball in this game at all because they were down so much. And Cooper Kupp had a really good game. He was open all the time, and Tyler Higbee was, getting really involved in this offense. And to all the people who are like, talking about Allen Robinson and kind of the struggles he's had, he's open. He's getting open. There was a play where they ran it a couple times, and he's the backside dig, and he was open, at least like coming open like 2 or 3 times, and Stafford just went elsewhere with the ball because he felt like he had to get rid of it. So when this team gets an offensive line back, I think you will, and they actually like scheme up plays for Robinson, I think he will get more involved. This defense, they're struggling, man. They're struggling more than I thought they would. Outside of like Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner and Ramsey, who, just had an okay game today, I felt like Darion Kendrick's also playing pretty well. They need more like talent on this defense. I feel like they're kind of lacking talent. They let a lot of people go last year, so I hope that they can find something to build off of and maybe make a run later in the season. So Rams just kind of underwhelming performance on Monday Night Football against division rival San Francisco. We move on here to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are going to stay put. I felt like they played a really good game. I think it was Joe Burrow's best game of the year. T. Higgins was involved very nicely. I think that the Bengals will continue to improve. Their defense was pretty good. Kind of held down Miami except for Tyreek Hill. Eli Apple was really good in this game, actually. Von Bell was phenomenal. He kept, he made some really nice plays at the 2 interceptions, one off Tua and one off of Teddy Bridgewater. But Zach Taylor, man, is just, this offense is kind of hard to watch. I mean, they just run inside zone and they don't run anything else. And the play calling is just terrible. I mean, Zach Taylor needs to give up play calling duties or something, because he's like the reason that this team is not like reaching its full potential. And I know it's only week 4 and anything can happen, but man, dude, they need something out of Zach Taylor to continue to try and elevate this team from last year, get this team better from where they were last year. And then we've got the number 8 team moving up 5 spots. It is the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, this team is still very good. Even with Trey Lance hurt, this team is still phenomenal, man. Jimmy Garoppolo is like a perfect fit for this team. I think just the way they operate, I think he just operates that offense really well. Jeff Wilson had a great game. Had a really nice touchdown, really nice cutback on his touchdown. And Deebo Samuel, this man he's not the best receiver in football. I said he was arguably top 5 coming into the year, but he's one of one, man. There is no one that I have seen ever play like Deebo Samuel. He's literally a receiver running back hybrid. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. The touchdown that he had was freaking awesome, man. It was an in route, and he just out jumps the defender, catches it, breaks a tackle immediately, cuts it all the way across the field, runs through Jalen Ramsey and scores a touchdown. It was something else, man. And Deebo is, still one of the best players, in the league, man. He's just incredible. And this defense is freaking awesome, man. I mean, this defense has the best pass rush in football. I think that's undisputed now. Samson Ebukam, shout out to him because, Nick Bosa is getting a lot of attention, and rightfully so. He's probably the leader for Defensive Player of the Year. He had 14 pressures in this game, which is just stupid. But Samson Ebukam also had a phenomenal game. 2 sacks, 1 pick, or 1 TFL, a forced fumble as well. Charles Omenihu, Hassan Ridgeway also got to the quarterback. Ark Armstead had a pretty good game. This defense is going to be, the best in the league, I think, by the end of the season for sure. And then we move on to the number 7 team, the Minnesota Vikings, moving up 4 spots from last week. Had a really good week this week. They finally got Justin Jefferson back involved in the game, which was really nice to see. Kirk Cousins had a good game. The interception that he threw was just a really good play by Tyrann Mathieu, really good disguise, came over and intercepted it. But I think that this Minnesota team will build off this. They lost Lewis Seen with a fractured leg, which was too bad because Seen was actually having a pretty good season. Was proving me wrong for my draft grade on him. Thielen had a good game, was pretty involved. I like to see them get Irv Smith involved just so that they mix up the offense a little bit. Cam Dantzler had a really nice game. He had 3 passes defense, one of the best games of his career. So hopefully the Vikings can continue to build off of this and turn it into more wins. Then at the 6th spot, staying put, is the Green Bay Packers. And let me just say, I'll start off by saying Aaron Rodgers was absolutely pedestrian in the first half. And a lot of people were saying that he was playing like an MVP in the second half. I don't know if I'd go that far, but he was playing really good. I think Al Lazard had a really nice game, and he's looked much better than he has in the past. I think he's becoming a solid receiver too. It was surprising to me that they went away from the run game because Aaron Jones was getting yards per carry quite frequently. He was getting 5, 6, 7 yards a pop, and A.J. Dillon was kind of 4 yards a carry or so, but. They started throwing it, and Rodgers was pretty good. This defense, Joe Barry needs to, do something besides, vanilla coverages. He needs to design blitzes better. This defense has the potential to be, top 3. And I know they didn't have Jair Alexander, but that's not really any excuse. They're, afraid to run man coverage against the Patriots receivers who are, probably bottom 12 in the league. So it's kind of discouraging to see that from the Packers this week. A little bit discouraging that you go to overtime with a team that, had a third-string quarterback for most of the game. But, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks with the Packers as they go to London this week against the New York Giants. Then at number 5 here, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think they just ran into a buzzsaw in the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Mahomes had an absolutely perfect night, and it's really hard to stop Mahomes when he had a perfect night. I thought Tom Brady was still pretty good in this game. They got everybody back. It was their first game back from injuries, with Godwin, and Mike Evans was coming back from the suspension, and Mike Evans was awesome in this game. And, I think that they'll be fine. They'll bounce back. They got Atlanta this week. They'll probably put up 40 on them. So Tom Brady was excellent in this game. I mean, didn't really make any mistakes. He had that one fumble, but I think it was a free blitzer that got him, I'm pretty sure. So once they get, once Godwin gets back to full speed and everything, I think that this offense will still be phenomenal. I still think that this Bucs defense is the best in the league. They just, when Mahomes is playing like that, it's really hard to stop him. And, it's between them and San Francisco, I think. But I think the Bucs are probably still the best defense in football right now. Then we move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are going to stay put at number 3. They had a slow start to this game. It's a rainy game, but they were able to kind of bounce back, get back in the game. Miles Sanders had a career day. Finally, they're using him, man. It took them 3-4 years to finally figure out that Miles Sanders is a good running back in football. So they finally used him. Jalen Hurts probably had his worst game of the year, but that's not really saying much because, he's had really good games other than this. It was just tough conditions. Doesn't change the outlook that I've had on Hurts. He's been phenomenal this season. And the Philadelphia Eagles are really putting themselves in a position to, play for that NFC crown. Their offensive line and defensive line are both phenomenal, and they're both, I think the biggest reason why they have a chance to win every week is because they can dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. Jordan Davis looks absolutely incredible. First round pick. He's the way he moves is just not human. And then Lane Johnson, who has kind of struggled with injuries, some other stuff the last couple of years. This dude, when Trent Williams is out, he's probably the best tackle in football. I mean, he was making Trayvon Walker look like he was some undrafted free agent pickup. He was that good this week. So the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm hesitant to put them above these two teams in the AFC just because, they've beaten good teams. I want to see them beat a great team. I want to see them beat a great team. I think that, Philly, they've beaten the Vikings, they've beaten the Lions, the Jags, and who else did they beat? The Eagles beat the Commanders. So they got the Cardinals. They really don't have a great team on their schedule till the Cowboys, which is later in the season. So, I Or no, I guess the Cowboys is in 2 weeks. But they do have a test this week against Arizona. Kyler Murray is a really good player, so we shall see how they do this week against a phenomenal player in Kyler Murray. But my number 2 team, moving down one spot, they've been my number 1 for a while now. It is the Buffalo Bills. So the Buffalo Bills are, still a very good team. Just dealing with a lot of injuries right now, especially in the secondary. We talked about Micah Hyde last week. No more him. But, I think they're still a very good football team. And got off to a slow start this week. We're able to bounce back. Baltimore just needs to figure out how to close games. I also just realized I forgot to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. They are the number 4 team, moving up 3 spots. Totally forgot about them. But the Baltimore Ravens were, good team. Lamar Jackson still looks very good. They just need to figure out a way to close games and stop the pass. Back to the Bills. Josh Allen's still very good. Probably one of the MVP frontrunners, and I think that they will continue to progress throughout the year. They do have some tough games coming up. They got the Steelers, and then after that, they're on the road against Kansas City, and then home against Green Bay. So those 2 games will be tests for them to see just how good they are. And then my new number 1 team is the Kansas City Chiefs. They were just absolutely incredible on Sunday night. Mahomes was unbeatable. He was pretty much perfect the entire night. Their defense looks much improved with Justin Reed and some of those other guys. Willie Gay's playing really well. I still think they need more out of their pass rush. I think they are probably the worst part of this defense, but their defense is so much more improved. They were able to, get that 1 turnover off of Brady, and then they got the turnover on special teams on Rachaad White, which was the 2 difference makers in the game because, gave the Chiefs an extra possession to start, and they were also able to, take 1 away from the Bucs, get short field twice, which was the difference of the game. It was a 10-point game, so that's the reason they won that game on top of phenomenal offense. So the Chiefs continue to be one of the best teams in football, and they will, push hard for that AFC, number 1 seed. We'll see what happens, but that concludes our Week 5 power rankings here at the Underdog Podcast. Hoping for some more action this week in the NFL. Stay tuned. Later this week, I'm doing a Justin Fields / Chicago Bears video. Very, very excited to do that. It's going to be a breakdown of why the Bears just absolutely suck this season and why Justin Fields has not looked very good this year at all. On top of that, I think I'm going to be doing another one on Geno Smith next week, so stay tuned for that one as well. Very excited for both of those videos, and I hope you guys tune into those. But thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you all had a great day, and peace.